Hello and welcome back to another episode of Best Bets. What is going on? I am Matt O'Leary. I am joined as always by Newsday's NFL pick columnist Joe Manniello. Joe, how are you?
Doing good, man. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Just to recap, Week 10, a 4-2 week for me. I'm at 31-20-1, 2-3-1. A push, unfortunately, for the Lions last week. 19-31 and 2 so far on the season. Heading into Week 11, which is a nice looking slate here.
Yeah, some good games.
Let's start with one of the premier games. Usually we don't do Thursday Night Football, but this week this game is so good. We're doing Thursday Night Football. We're posting it a day early, the show. So let's talk about it. It is the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. Ravens are home and favored by 3.5 points. What's your play in this game?
Yeah, it should be a great game. To me, it's the best Thursday night game of the year. And if you stuck around last week and watched the Bears and Panthers, this is your reward, as I wrote in my column today. But I think it's a great game. Could go either way. You know, two really good teams coming off bad, surprising home losses. So I think that ramps up the intensity even more. AFC North is the only division in football with every team over 500. So Ravens win, they're 8-3. Bengals lose 5-5. So I think the Bengals are the more desperate team here. I think it comes down to the spread here, 3.5. If it was 2.5, I consider taking Baltimore, but 3.5 is just too enticing with Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Even though T. Higgins is out, the Ravens have some injury issues too with Marlon Humphrey. I think he's not going to play, and Ronnie Stanley on the offensive line. To me, I just think this is a Joe Burrow game. I think the Bengals are going to win the game outright. They lost week 2 when he wasn't 100% with his calf. They lost 27-24. I got the same score going the other way. Bengals 27-24. Against a Burrow, Jamar Chase kind of game, back and forth kind of game. But as great as the Ravens looked at home against the Lions and Seahawks, last week's loss was a little eye-opening. I think it was kind of fluky, pick 6, but they still lost. They let the Browns come back, so I don't think they're like, I was high on them this year, and I still am, but I don't think they're like a dominant team, so it wouldn't be a shock if they lost at home. And I think there's 2 evenly matched teams, so getting the extra half, I think it's a 3-point game either way. So 3.5 feels like a slam dunk for the Bengals.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the extra half a point is going to come in big in this game because I do think it could be a field goal game either way. The first one, as you said, was a tight one, and the Ravens came out on top. And in this division, they're so competitive. I'm sure it could happen with the Ravens sweeping the Bengals, but it just feels like something that they're going to be able to split here. Between these two teams. Outside of last week to a surprising home loss to Houston, I think the Bengals, it looked like they hit their stride, putting up 34 points against Arizona, and then 31 of dominant win in San Francisco. Honestly, at times they've looked better on the road the last couple of times as well. So I think they win this game. I think it's a back and forth one. I do think it's a field goal game, but with the Bengals coming out on top, I'm going to go 30-27 in this one. Pretty close to last time these two teams played, 27-24. But I think the Bengals get themselves back on track here, and the AFC North gets that much tighter. In this one. Should be a good one on Thursday night. We will get to the two locals now, the Commanders and the Giants first. The Commanders are 9.5-point favorites here. What's your play?
Yeah, I can't believe the spread is so high. To me, it doesn't make any sense. I know the Giants are starting Tommy DeVito, and he's a fun story and all, but third string quarterback. But these teams played 4 weeks ago, and the Giants won 14-7, and it's basically the same defense without Leonard Williams. So I don't understand why the Commanders, who don't blow anyone out, are giving up 10 points. So, I've gotten a lot wrong this year. I wrote this in my column. One thing I'm 100% on is fading the Commanders as favorites. Whenever they're favored this year, 3 times, I picked against them, and I'm 3-0. So I'm going with that theory again. I think they win the game, but not by 10 points. Maybe maybe it's 14-7 or 17-10. I just don't understand why they're favored by almost double digits. So, Giants, I'm very confident with the Giants covering this split.
Okay, there you go. I'm going to go with the Commanders in this one. The last few weeks, I think their offense has looked better after that Giants loss. The 14-7 game at MetLife was an ugly one. I think Sam Howell's done a nice job of avoiding sacks actually the last few weeks. He hasn't taken as many as he was early on in the year, and that's what I think the Giants took such advantage of. And without Leonard Williams and The Giants season has changed a lot since the last time these two teams played, when Tommy DeVito is not the same caliber as Daniel Jones or Tyrod. And I just think the Giants season's kind of going to get ugly here. Not that it's going to be a crazy blowout, but 24-6, something like that. I think the Commanders take care of business, and I just think the Giants are unfortunately going to have a rough go of it the rest of the way. As for the New York Jets, they head up to Buffalo to take on the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are 7-point favorites in this game. How about here? Do you like the home favorite, or are you going underdog?
Yeah, I mean, I hate taking the Jets every week, but I like them a lot this week. The Jets, one of my top picks. The spread is the same, I think. I think it's closer to a field goal game. But the Jets have played well against Josh Allen. In week one, they turned him over 4 times. Jordan Whitehead had 3 picks. They had that great emotional overtime win with the punt return. And it was overtime, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And to me, I don't trust Zach Wilson. I don't trust Nathaniel Hackett. This is more about the Jets defense. I feel like they're going to show up. They have Josh Allen's number. Even last year, they played well against him when they beat him at home. And it's also about the Bills. I mean, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. If you look at their schedule, they're 5-5. Even if they win this game, they got some tough games ahead for the Eagles. I think they play the Cowboys, maybe even the Chiefs.
Yep.
But, I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. They just fired Ken Dorsey, the offensive coordinator. Josh Allen, as great as he is, he's, again, leading the NFL in turnovers, 14. He has 14 turnovers already this year. Last year, he had 19. They have no running game, basically. And I liked the Broncos last week against them. I picked the Broncos to cover. And I almost, I'm not as ballsy as I used to be. I used to always, tweet my upset picks. I almost said that I think the Broncos are going to win tonight, but I don't want to get the backlash, so I chickened out. But I had a feeling the Broncos were going to win that game. They're playing better. And the Broncos defense has played great, and the Jets defense is even better. So I think they're going to frustrate Allen again. I got the Jets to win this game outright. I don't have a score. I'll give you 23-20, something like that, or maybe even lower scoring, 2017. I just think, it's hard to pick Zach Wilson. They should have beaten the Raiders. They had so many opportunities, but the Jets cut out the penalties, and they continue to frustrate Allen. I feel like the wheels are falling off the Bills, and all the pressure's on them. They're 5-5. It's like uncharted territory for them lately. They're usually 7-2, 7-3. So I feel like all the pressure's on them, and I think this is a great shot for the Jets to capitalize here. I got them winning outright, so +7's a steal.
Yeah, I agree with the spread. I think this game should be it should be a much lower spread. The 7 feels like too much, especially when you consider, as you mentioned, just how good this Jets defense has been against Josh Allen. I have no idea what version of this Jets team we're getting on a week-to-week basis. It looks like they're starting to look a little bit better, and then they drop. They win an ugly game against the Giants, and then they don't score a touchdown for 2 weeks in a row. The defense is going to keep them in this game, as they do pretty much every single week. But you're right. The Bills, something seems very wrong with them, and I think they use Ken Dorsey as a scapegoat, and I'm not really sure how much of a difference it's going to make going from Dorsey to Joe Brady, especially they made that decision on Monday, and how much is really going to change in their offense in just 6 days here leading up to this game. But I don't know if I have the stones to pick the Jets outright in this one. They can win. They beat them in week 1. The Jets defense plays well enough where they can beat, hang with anybody. But offensively right now, I kind of got to believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm going to take the Bills 16-13, a field goal game. I think the defense does its job, holds them under 20 points. But until the Jets start finding the end zone, I don't know how I'm going to pick them outright. So I'll take the Jets to cover, but lose a tight, low-scoring, ugly defensive game up in Buffalo. All right, how about a best bet this week? What's one to you that really stands out?
I'm going with something. I haven't been good on my best bet this year, but I'm going with one I feel like it just always hits. Miami Dolphins at home, big spread, -12.5 against the Raiders, but I'm laying the number. They're 4-0 at home, straight up and against the spread. Every win by at least 14 points. And I think the Raiders, as nice as those wins felt against the Giants and Jets, get rid of Josh McDaniels. I don't think they're going to like Mike McDaniel. And I think that offense, off a bye, I think they're having a chance coming back to play. I just think they'll run up the score. I don't see them being held under 30. I feel like it's like a 34-20 kind of game, 34-13. I'm not all in on the Raiders. I think they're they're not a great team, and I think that they come down from that high off those two big wins at home. Antonio Pierce's first two wins. I think this is like a rude awakening for them, and I think the Dolphins off the bye, 2 weeks to prepare after the Germany loss to Kansas City. They do their best at home against bad teams, and then I don't think the Raiders are that good. So I'll leave a big number. I feel like the other Vegas knows this is a mismatch because it's spread. At first, you're like, wow, 12.5. The Raiders have 5 wins. Why is this a 12.5 game? 6-3 versus 5-5 team. I feel like they're begging you to take the Raiders here. So I think the Dolphins win big.
There you go. Yeah, it's going to be a little different for Vegas now, going out on the road and not playing two inept offenses in the Giants and the Jets. So
exactly.
tough matchup there. For my best bet, I'm going to go with the Texans -4.5. A team that I liked. I told you before we got into the picks, I was going to go with the Browns, and the Watson injury kind of scared me off. But I like the Texans with C.J. Stroud. They've been one of my favorite teams this year, and
MVP.
Yeah, he very well could win that. He's absolutely in the conversation, I think. That offense is really clicking right now. And Arizona, I understand that they got Kyler Murray back, and they had a nice win over Arthur Smith and the Falcons, but that Falcons team's another weird one. And they put up 25 points. I think Houston's going to be able to put up 30 for what would be the third week in a row, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they got 30 last week. So third week in a row. And I don't think that Arizona's going to be able to score enough to hang. So I think this is like a 30-23 game. The Texans win this one by a touchdown.
I like Houston too, but the spread kind of scares me. It feels like it should be higher, so I'm a little nervous about the spread.
All right, there we go. How about an underdog? What's an underdog team that's jumping out to you?
Other than the Jets, there's not as many this week because there's a big spread, and I feel like the better teams are just going to dominate this week, like the Niners and Cowboys and Lions, and Dolphins. But I'll go with the team that's hot. They won 5 in a row, all covers. I picked them last week. Minnesota Vikings at Denver Sunday night, getting 2.5. I think they're going to win the game outright. I think Denver, give them credit, they turned their season around. Both these teams are 0-3. So it's pretty interesting that they're both now in the playoff hunt. The Vikings are 6-4. Broncos are 4-5. Broncos, big win at Buffalo, but back-to-back, then night games and short rest. So I don't know if that takes a toll. But I'm thinking more of like a Joshua Dobbs pick. I don't want to bet against this guy. What a story he's been. And the Vikings defense last year was awful. Brian Flores has done a great job, and Russell Wilson, give him credit. He turned his career around after last year's setback, but. I feel like it's a close game either way. I'm just going to stick with the Vikings mojo here. 5 in a row. Like I said, all covers. I think Kevin O'Connell's done a great job. He's in the Coach of the Year the conversation, even though I think D'Amico Ryan's going to lock it up pretty soon. But I'm just going to go with a team that I think is underrated. Still 6-4. They're doing it without Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins. I think they're rallying around each other. So that's always a team you want to get behind. So I like the Vikings to keep it going here, like a 23-20 kind of game.
Yeah, I like the Vikings a lot this week too. That's an underdog that I like. But I'll give you a different one. I'm going to take the Titans +7 going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Divisional game. These teams usually play tight games as well. And I don't – while Jacksonville, they obviously have the better record, and they are going to go on to win the division. I think it's at 6-3. Unless, who knows, maybe Houston gives them a run for their money. But I don't know how good this Jacksonville team is. I'm not fully bought in on them yet. They're coming off an ugly loss to San Francisco. I still think they win this game outright, but I don't know. I think these divisional matchups are much closer games usually. I don't see them winning by more than a touchdown. Maybe it ends up being a push, but I'm going to 24-20 kind of game. I know Will Levis struggled against the Todd Bowles defense last week, but I thought he looked pretty good his first 2 weeks, and not nearly as difficult of a defense to go against. So I think he keeps it close, and the Titans keep it close in this one.
The only thing about the Titans, they're 0-5 on the road. I picked them last week too. I thought they were going to beat the Bucs, but the thing about the Jaguars, last week I kind of knew it was the wrong pick. I should have taken the Niners, but the only thing about the Jaguars, they're a good team. So like if they got embarrassed last week, so I kind of like taking a team like that off a bad loss. So I took them this week, but I don't feel great about the game.
There we go. Understood. As for we got one more bonus pick, Monday Night Football. How do we not pick the Kelsey Bowl? It's the Chiefs and it's the Eagles. Taylor Swift's going to be in attendance with their family too. The whole world's going to be watching that game. Chiefs are favored by 2.5 points here. Who do you like?
Yeah, it's a great game. To me, it's game of the year. NFL did it right by both of them on a bye last week. Also, give them an extra day of rest Monday night. All eyes will be on this game. I think it's just as exciting as last year, but not as many points. Last year, Chiefs won 38-35. Exciting game down to the wire. I think the Chiefs win again, but more like a 24-20 kind of game, 27-24. Because, people don't realize the Chiefs defense has been top 5 defense all year. They're second in points allowed, 15.9, fourth fewest yards. And they're winning with defense. I mean, Mahomes is still great and all, but he's had a few clunkers. He had a cold or a flu out in Denver. He had the game against the Jets where he got outplayed by Zach Wilson. So, off a bye though, Andy Reid. Every year when the Chiefs are off a bye, I have to go look up his record. And this week I found one that included the playoffs, 27-4 after the bye, including the playoffs. I think it's without the playoffs, it might be like 20-3 or something like that. But you don't want to bet against Andy Reid off the bye. Eagles fans know that from his time in Philadelphia. And Chiefs only give him 2.5. If it was 3.5, similar to the Bengals Ravens game, maybe you take the Eagles there because the Eagles are a great team. But they, to me, the biggest part of this game is the tush push thing. If the Chiefs defense can keep them out of 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, 4th and 2, 3rd and 2, I think they win the game. And it'll be a close game either way. Jalen Hurts, the Eagles have so many weapons, A.J. Brown. But I think the Chiefs get it done. To me, it's more about their defense at home. You just feel like they're going to be the 1 seed at like 14-3, 15-2. And this is the game they find a way to win. Mahomes always finds a way to win these games. Last year, we picked against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Learning my lesson from that. I'm taking them to win the game. I'll go 24-20, low-scoring game.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think the Chiefs is the play here, and the spread being under 3 points, I think is big. Maybe I'd be a little bit more enticed to take the Eagles if the number is 3.5, but I really think this is looking like a 23-20 overtime game. I think it's going to be lower scoring than some people expect. People remember the Super Bowl well, and both offenses really showing out. But you mentioned it with this Kansas City defense. They are a really good unit. Steve Spagnuolo has them going well. And that Andy Reid stat coming out of the bye is one that I always try to figure out when the Chiefs are on the bye so we could put a play on them for that following week. The Eagles have been dominating on teams, right? Going into their bye week, they beat the Dolphins, the Commanders, and the Cowboys after the Jets loss. But they have a tough schedule coming up here. They got Kansas City on the road, Buffalo, who's not playing that great, but San Francisco, the Cowboys, they got a tough road ahead. But for this game in particular, it's going to be a good one, but maybe not the game that people are expecting, a big shootout. I think the defenses show out. Maybe a couple turnovers. It looks a little ugly, but I got the Chiefs in overtime, 23-20. All right, we'll run through these real quick. For our picks, Thursday Night Football, both Joe and I are on the Bengals, plus 3.5. Commanders and Giants, I'm taking the Commanders minus 9.5. Joe is on the Giants plus 9.5. Both on the Jets plus 7 in Buffalo. My best bet, Texans minus 4.5 against Arizona. Joe's going Dolphins minus 12.5, laying the big number against the Raiders. Underdog picks, Vikings plus 2.5 for Joe. I'm going Titans plus 7. And for the Monday Night Football game of the week, Chiefs and Eagles, both on the Chiefs minus 2.5 over the Eagles. Joe, thank you so much for joining me as always, and we'll talk again real soon.